All right then, here we go. Let's jump into this thing that I call boredom, or that you might call AP psychology. And we're going to ask this. All right, can a computer think? Can a computer think? Now, we're thinking of science fiction stuff. All right, and there's no possible way. Now, let me ask you this. If you've ever seen a science fiction movie where a computer can think and become what's called self-aware, does it ever end well for the humans? Yeah. In WALL-E? That's a pretty powerful statement of what happens to human beings when you have an unthinking servant. Isn't WALL-E good? Yeah. All right. Notice, check it out. As computers get smarter, more and more of our tasks get automated. Assembly line jobs get automated. Grading essays gets automated. More and more things gets automated. So the question is this: will eventually human thought become automated? If so, notice I said that humans aren't human beings, they're human thinkings. The definition of a human is someone who can think and communicate. If we no longer have to do it, if we invent something that can think better and faster than us, what's our purpose? You don't understand, but please, the estimated time is in the mid-2040s, about 2045. The singularity is predicted, where there will be a whole bunch of convergence of technologies, and a computer will realize it exists. Now, maybe it doesn't now. Your computer can say, I'm getting tired, not in so many words, but it will tell you you have 5% of your battery life left. Switch to an alternate power. Is it aware? Does it tell you how much available space it has on a particular drive? I think so. Does it say, oh my gosh, I'm running slow, run a defrag operation? It could be. Interesting. Computers do take in information. They take that information and they represent it as symbols, as circuits, as numbers, as letters, as electricity. And they produce output. Do you think computers think now? I told you before, a long time ago, I had a little Roomba robot. It's about as big as a dinner plate. Drive around, clean up my floor. All right. And when it died, my children cried. They really thought the thing was alive. Why wasn't it? It died. It consumed resources. This is wild because if we ever get a computer to be able to break its own program, to write its own programming, we get a computer that can then create a computer better than itself. What happens if we unplug it? Notice that any organism's first instinct is self-preservation. So a computer is going to realize, holy crap, I'm alive. Is it going to be happy in its own server? Or is it going to want to go to the internet? Is it going to want to explore? Is it going to want to see what's out there? Is it going to trust the human being who created it that could power it off, restart it, reformat it? Or is it going to take immediate steps to defend itself? You guys think that I'm making this stuff up? Do you think in your life, show of hands, how many of y'all think we will have a computer that can think for itself in your life? Do you think this will be a good thing? All right, go ahead, Kevin, what do you think? Absolutely, yeah. They did have a computer. Computers can be humans in chess, but notice that chess is a very narrow subset. That computer that could be human in chess, all right, couldn't give us GPS directions. It wasn't programmed. A human being can do a lot of activities moderately well. A computer is good at one or two activities, but it's extremely good at that. What if a computer can learn for itself? All right, and that's going to be the wild thing. Questions on that? Does that freak you all out? All right, you should be. All right, because guess what? That computer will know everything you've ever typed into Google or YouTube. You're sort of, all right, you know what I'm saying? Clear your history, people. No, I'm kidding. Formal reasoning is something we can do, but we don't do often. We can do, but we don't do often. Why? Because it takes time. It's hard to think logically. It's hard to get all of the data and then get rid of all of the possible confounding variables, reduce, and what you're left with must be the answer. It's called Occam's razor. And Occam's razor simply says this: the simplest solution is probably the best one. And so what are we saying? Formal reasoning is hard for us to do because we don't do logic. If you've been taught logic in chemistry, physics, and math, step-by-step algorithmic behavior, but it takes forever. Remember when you were a little kid? I was little, you guys are still. Remember you were a little kid and you had like a worksheet in Mrs. Felderspar's class and she said, show your work. You're like, I don't want to show my work. Here's the answer. She said, show your work. How'd you get the answer? I don't know. The answer just came to me. That's not good enough. When you got frustrated and the teacher said, show your work, they're asking you to demonstrate how you think. Most of us don't know how we think. The answer just comes to us. Intuition. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. This is called bottom-up processing. Get the data first, then form the conclusion. We saw this in the perceptual unit. Bottom-up processing means that if we were to read, first we'd see each individual line, then we recognize a bunch of lines together make a letter, then we recognize a bunch of letters together make a word, then we realize the words together make a sentence, and only then could we get meaning. It's not how we read. It's not how we think. We get the meaning, and then we don't even remember what words were on the page. We don't look at the details. You need to know algorithm. An algorithm is a formula for getting the correct answer each time. See how that's in quotes? That is a hint. That might be what essay grader is looking for. Have we discussed the brilliance of having gummy bears infused with caffeine? What would be better than that? Nothing. Why would you want gummy bears infused with caffeine? Why?
Little kids like sexual hyper.
Irrelevant. It's for me. Little kids? Who cares about them? All right, we're my math geniuses. Ready for this? I want you to do this problem. 2 plus blank equals what? 2 plus blank equals 10. What's the answer?
8.
How'd you get that answer? You don't know. You're doing top down. You know the answer because you know the answer. A computer must do this. 2 plus 1? No. 2 plus 2? No. 2 plus 3? No. 2 plus 4? No. It'll go all the way up to 2 plus 8. Got it. All right, and then guess what? If you show this answer to question to a computer again, it won't say, oh, I know what that is. I just saw that same problem. No. The computer's going to do the same thing over and over. Same thing over and over. Same thing over and over. It cannot learn from its past. It cannot learn from its past. Unless we teach it to learn from its past. But notice, if you're like typing something, and you're typing something in physics, in psych, where they got a fancy vocab word, and you type it, and guess what? The computer thinks you misspelled it. You can add it to dictionary and teach the computer. The computer can learn that this word is not misspelled. It's a new word. But can the computer do that on its own? Can the computer say on a top-down thing, this student, my user, my owner, my master, has used this word 100 times this past year, all in the same classes, in the same files, labeled with the same prefix. I'm going to make an intuitive leap. That word is not misspelled 100 times in a row. That's a word that is correct. I just don't know it. Your computer can't do that. Question?
So, I'm pretty sure like on your phone, if you type a word wrong enough, like my name technically would be spelled wrong on my phone, but because I typed it in enough,
Excellent.
then it stops saying it's spelled wrong.
So, what is the algorithm? How many times? What I'm saying is how many times? 4? 5? Notice the computer can only learn, and now we're going to go back into conditioning, if a condition's met. If this, then that. So guess what? Maybe we are. Maybe phones are starting to become, is it intuitive or are they just following programming? I think they're just following programming.
Yeah, eventually it'll start to like autocorrect other things to that.
This is true. All right, will a computer eventually start to autocorrect the world? You think I'm lying? Can traffic circuits, can certain internet circuits say, whoa, too much traffic over here, let's shift over here, let's shift over here. Yeah, it can. It'll be interesting to see what happens in our world. Okay, syllogism. Look at the root word of syllogism. Logic. If A equals B and B equals C, then A must equal C. Most of us don't do this. Your mom is horribly bad at this. Do your parents do this thing that they tell you something not to do, but they do it themselves? Yeah, they do that a lot. And you call them on it. You say, hey, Mom, if you say this and you think this, how come you do this? And they say, well, shut up, my house, my rules, or do what I say, or because I said so. Is that a favorite parent thing? So check this out. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If your mom worries about you driving, and your mom's like, honey, it's not you I'm worried about, it's the other people on the road. That's the most illogical statement in the world. How many of y'all think you're a good driver? Oh, no, you know you're not. Okay, if you're raising your hand and you're under 18 years old, what possible data do you have to think you're a good driver? Now, teenage boys say, I'm a good driver because I can drive fast. Is that what you're thinking, Jose? Kind of? You're a good driver because you can press the pedal further. It's like saying I'm a good musician because I can turn it up. Doesn't necessarily make sense. Your mom should be worried about you driving because you're the most inexperienced people on the road. You have very little experience. You don't even drive. You just aim your 2-ton Deathmobile and hopefully it doesn't hit anything. Tell me I'm wrong. How many of y'all text while you drive? No one. Stoplight texting? All right. Is that good? Stoplight texting?
Stoplight texting is fun. Yeah.
You think that's okay? All right, fair enough.
I mean, you're not moving.
Not texting during like school zones, right? Not okay. I don't do that either. All right. I got like 4 phones. I got a keyboard on my dash. All right. So check it out. All right. Let's talk about deductive versus inductive. Deductive reasoning. Sherlock Holmes. Deductive reasoning. Sherlock Holmes. The idea of let's gather a lot of individual clues, pieces of evidence, individual datum, and then we're going to put it together. Rarely do we do this. Rarely we assume. And maybe this is the fundamental attribution error. When I see someone acting like an idiot, I'm like, teenagers. I'm assuming their age is causing their behavior. All right? If I see some girl acting silly over shoes, women, I'm assuming their gender is causing the behavior. That is illogical. Another way to say this is diagnosis. Does anyone know what the word agnostic means? No one? All right. An atheist is someone who does not believe in God. Agnostic? Anyone ever heard of it? Go ahead.
It's like when, you don't really believe there's a higher power, but if you had a choice, you believe in what you were taught.
I've heard, maybe you've heard it differently. What do you got? The way, as I understand classic agnosticism, is you don't know. You don't know if there's a God or not. It's like you don't believe, you don't believe, you don't believe, you do believe, you don't know. Agnosticism means you don't know. Look at the root word of diagnosis. You don't know. You're trying to know. You're taking a whole bunch of data and you're trying to figure out. Hear me now, believe me later. A lot of words look scary when you pick them apart. You do realize that a lot of words come from a common root. Sadly, in order to take a Latin or Greek class, you have to graduate from high school to go to a college, even though taking a Latin or Greek class would let you do well in the SAT so you could get into college. A little bit of irony there. So diagnosis, your doctor. Do you trust your doctor? Do you trust your doctor to think logically, or are they a human being? You go into your doctor, you got runny nose, you got fever, you're puking, you got all sorts of stuff. Your doctor's seen 9 people before you with the exact same symptoms. This time of year, doctor's like, flu. You walk in, doctor's like, you probably have the flu. Probably? You're going to take that? Aren't you going to want a full blood workup, MRI? How do you know it's not a fungus? How do you know it's a flesh-eating bacteria? How do you know you're not possessed by demons? Which is why you don't sleep, because that's when they get you. That's when they get you. All right, so that's why I don't have mirrors in my bedroom. So here's what I'm suggesting to you. Do you think your doctor's logical? I remember one time I went to the doctor and I had like strep throat. The doctor's like, here, have amoxicillin. Didn't work. Here, have penicillin. Didn't work. My throat's on fire. I swear I was like breathing broken glass is how bad the throat hurt. And I was like, Doc, this has got to stop. This has been going on for a while. She's like, well, that's what we call it, the practice of medicine. That's not funny. That's not funny at all. So the question is this, do you think your doctor, when you walk in the room, how many possible variations of a virus are there? Nearly an infinite. How many possible things could cause a fever? Nearly an infinite. How does your doctor gather all of that data and come to a conclusion? Or does he or she just assume, based on where we live, your age, your gender, your activity style? That's called what? When she assumes. It starts with an H and rhymes with heuristic. Well done. That's going to be availability heuristic. Obstacles to problem solving. The first one we talk about, we have obstacles to problem solving. I think the first one is multiple hypothesis. Multiple hypothesis. Hard problems are big problems. Hard problems are broad problems. Students come to me and say, how come I'm not doing well on your test? Now, I immediately want to say, because you're dumb, but I can't say that. I'm going to say things like, well, how do you study? How do you take a test? How often do you study? And I have a whole bunch of if-thens. If you cram the night before, then you won't do well. Where do you study? All right, well, let me ask you this. How should we fix public education? It's a good question. But it's too broad. Should we pay teachers more so that the best and brightest coming out of college choose education as a major? Because notice that the best and brightest go into finance. If teachers are one of the lowest paid occupations, what does that say? The bottom half of any graduating class chooses education as a major. You don't believe me? This guy. All right, so I don't know how to solve education. I don't know how to solve our national debt. I don't know how to solve a big problem because there's too many things. Multiple hypotheses. So what are we going to do? We're going to use the availability heuristic. Availability heuristic, or the availability bias, says we use the solution that we most often use. We use the solution that we most often use because we're familiar, which means your doctor is going to use the flu solution because that's what she sees the most. This time of year, people coming in coughing, sneezing, fever, it's the flu. Flu, 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 flu. She's not going to gather all the data. She's going to use a heuristic. And I think that's probably a good idea. Have you ever tried to diagnose yourself on WebMD? Your computer will take every possible disease, and you've got like subequatorial freaking carcinoma with a little bit of malaria mixed in and a tiny bit of halitosis. All right, that's what your computer's going to diagnose you as. All right, everyone knows what halitosis is? No. Fancy name for bad breath. Availability heuristic. A long time ago, I was in downtown. This is when I used to like go to raves because I freaking rock. All right, I used to party, used to go downtown. You don't understand. I was like a straight up stone cold thug. All right, and then one time, 3 o'clock in the morning, I left the nightclub. I shut it down. Lost my keys. Lost my keys. Night, city. I was a little bit nervous, but since I'm a thug, what's up? Who's gonna mess with me, right? So I'm looking on a sidewalk. All right, fortunately, there's a big street light, so I'm looking around. The sidewalk's really lit up. Dude comes walking up next to me. He's like, hey, buddy, what's up? I was like, hey, man, I lost my keys. He goes, did you lose them around here? I looked at him like, no. Well, why are you looking around here then? I said, because this is where the light is. It's kind of weird. Why would I look for keys where it's not? Because that's where the light is. It's kind of like availability heuristic. How many of you guys have ever lost your keys, lost your wallet in your house? You know it's in your house. You do a circle around your house. You check the junk drawer. You check your kitchen cabinet, your counter. You go to your bedroom, you look, it's not there, what do? You go back to the kitchen and recheck crap. How many of y'all have ever done that? You look at the same stuff over and over. There's your availability heuristic. So here's what I do. Whenever I lose my keys or wallet and I find it, I keep looking. Because then it won't be in the last place I looked. All right then, so here's what we're doing. Let's talk about mental set. Anna, you don't like that idea? Have you ever heard the phrase, it's always in the last place you look? I just disproved the rule. Thank you. Thank you. Now you're understanding. All right. You don't know that I'm working on a never-ending ladder. All right, so here we go. Why are you laughing at that, Hunter? Darn right it's a good idea. The mental set is following an old system because it worked before. It's the exact opposite of creativity. It's the exact opposite of creativity. I never heard of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a book. It's supposed to be for effective people. I've never read it. I just skimmed it, as you can tell. So here's the way it works. There was an old woodcutter, and he was in the woods. Winter was coming. He had to cut a lot of wood because you know what? He needed a whole bunch of firewood to keep himself warm, and his axe was really dull. His saw was really dull. He was working, and he's sweating. He was like trying to chop wood with a spoon. That's how dull this thing was. So he's sawing, and he's sweating, and he's sawing, and he doesn't have any time. He's like rushed, he's rushed, but he's not making any progress. He just keeps sawing with a really, really dull saw. Someone walks up to him and says, hey, buddy, why don't you sharpen your saw? He's like, I got no time. I got to keep cutting. It means how many of you all study the same way over and over and over again, but you don't do well? So what do? You study harder the same way. Doesn't work very well. My daddy said, if don't force it, just get a bigger hammer. All right, that's going to be what's called mental set or functional fixedness. Functional fixedness is the opposite of creativity. Most people don't realize it. Check it out. You know what a hammer can be used for? Taking a nail out. All you got to do is flip it around. Let's think, the only thing good for a hammer is hitting crap. We got two types of creative thinking. One is called divergent thinking. One is called convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is let's think of a lot of solutions. Let's think of a lot of solutions. A long time ago, I was on the panel before I was a high school teacher. I was on a panel for like a global initiative for helping with charity. And one of the problems is clean drinking water. And I said, well, certain parts of the world have lots of clean drinking water. And, someone was like, well, wouldn't it be great if we could just fly water to the Sahara Desert? You know how you can like bomb forest fires with water? What if we could just bomb the Sahara Desert with water? Wouldn't that fix everything? I'd be like, water is too heavy. So I had the idea of dehydrated water. What you do is you just make it a powder. That way it's going to be a lot easier to fly. How many of y'all like that idea? That's divergent thinking. Convergent thinking is realizing there is an infinite amount of solutions to any problem. There's an infinite amount of solutions to any problem. Convergent thinking is picking the right one. A long time ago on a highway, a trucker did not see the sign that says clearance 15 feet. Dude wanted to get home for the holidays or whatever. So his truck was 15 feet and 1 inch. He's rolling. Horrendous noise, 60 miles an hour, hits the bridge. Doesn't really wreck anything, just wedges the truck, because he was going 60 miles an hour under an interstate bridge. Had to shut down everything. And you're like, holy crap, what do we do? We've got diesel fuel, we've got traffic. Should we take the bridge off? Crane, how are we going to get other equipment in here without shutting stuff off? You had flashing lights everywhere, engineers everywhere, traffic safety, cops, even the governor was involved. Like, what do? Little boy walked up and said, hey, mister, why don't you let the air out of the tires? What I'm suggesting is, how do you come up with thoughts? Where does the idea come from? Is that algorithmic? Is that formal? Is it informal? Where does it come from? Confirmation bias. Seeking data that supports your conclusion. Seeking data that supports your conclusion. You know what we call that? Republicans and Democrats. If you listen to Fox News, it's because you like it. You listen to MSNBC, it's because you like it. If you listen to one news story, Obamacare, the worst thing in the world. You listen to another news story, is millions of people are finally getting health care. Which one's true? It depends. If you select only certain data points, you're going to support your conclusion. That's bad science, that's bad science, that's bad science. What if researchers came up with a new drug to fix Alzheimer's? And you know what? It works 90% of the time. But the 10%, well, they die. What if they were like, well, we're not going to count that data? Do you think drug companies actually do that? There's a lot of money on the table. You going to trust them? All right, let's jump into probabilities. First thing you got to know is framing effect. Framing effect means that people will make a choice based on how things are worded. I've invented a new drug to cure Alzheimer's. It works 90% of the time. I've invented a new drug that cures Alzheimer's. It kills 10% of the people who try it. Depends on how you phrase it. Depends on how you phrase it. Ugly people, check this next thing out. Check this next thing out. Kid in the back's like, okay, this is for me. Watch this, ready? You could ask someone, hey, would you like to go out tonight? And you'll get a or, watch this one, ready? What time do you want to go out tonight? Salespeople pay attention. Interesting way to frame the question. Each week's not too far away. Say, Mom, how much money do you think you're going to give me for Beach Week? Versus, can I have money? One assumes it. Any of your parents let you go to Beach Week? Smack them in the head. Say, Mom, Dad, what's wrong with you? Do you know what I plan to do there? Does anyone plan to go to Beach Week to make good decisions? Oh, is it really? You're going to sit there with a clipboard and study adolescent stupidity? Are human beings good at judging probabilities? It depends on how you define good, and it depends on how you define probabilities. I think we're okay at estimating them, but there's quite a bit of stuff that, all right, let me say this, the lottery. Why do people play the lottery? To get money. Statistically, no one ever wins. You're like, aha, rednecks win because they're the only people that win. Tell me I'm wrong. Where'd the last one win? What state? Georgia. Tell me I'm wrong. Southern state that ends in an A. So here's what I'm suggesting to you guys. People who often buy lottery tickets, notice they think a rare and powerful thing will happen. Don't buy insurance. In which case they think a rare and powerful thing won't happen. People who buy lottery tickets, don't buy condoms. Where they think a rare and powerful thing will happen or won't happen. Now, I'm obviously saying that I'm putting people in category. Lottery tickets for these kind of people. But if you were to do what's called demographic research on people who buy lottery tickets, I'm not talking going in at the holidays, people getting together and, pooling their money on an office pool, or the jackpot reached $600 gajillion. I'm talking about people week in, week out, buy lottery tickets as part of their routine. If you look at the demographic criteria of such folks, the attributes, generally they are poorer, less educated, not really done well in math classes. So why would someone buy a lottery ticket? Instead of taking, if you buy $5 in lottery tickets every day for a year, how much money did you waste? About $1,500. It's an interesting concept. What could you do with that $1,500 if you put it in a 10% return over and over and over and over again? Just an interesting idea. Don't let the tide fool you. I am Stone Cold Thug. You can't hear the little jingle bell sound coming out of my tie, but that is how I roll. All right. Don't let the tie fool you. I'm a thug. I'm a baller. All right. You don't like to tie with a shirt?
Oh, geez.
Okay then. Well, you know what? That's what happens if you pick your clothes out in the dark. Okay, tell you what, oh my God, shh, ugly, look. The rule is simply this. You can be ugly or noisy, but not both. Okay, if you're not me, then you might have a shot at hope. All right? But if you, hello, choir, I will show you a mirror. I can see like you guys call each other like, hey, do you want to practice social skills? All right, so let's do this. Is it song time? Oh, we're going to have a song today. I know who doesn't love songs. White chocolate eaters don't like songs. I know, a student gave me white chocolate for a Christmas present. All right, a student didn't make it to the next class. Coincidence? I don't think so.